This is an old story of two brothers. I happen to be one of them. School success for me was easy. For my brother, not so much. He struggled with reading, spelling, and writing. But he was mechanical. He could strip down an engine while I was still hunting for the toolbox. As a result of his less than adequate education, he dropped out of school at the end of the first year of high school and joined the Army's Medical Corps. He rose rapidly through the ranks. When offered officer training, he declined, maybe out of fear of his lack of academic skills. What could he have become if he'd felt differently about those skills? Meanwhile, I spent 7 years in 3 universities, almost finishing a PhD. Nevertheless, my brother and I are alike. Both of us are in long-term relationships, both have children and grandchildren, and we have both had satisfying careers. But there's a difference. Now, have you ever wondered, as I have, what kind of difference learning makes in people's lives? What are the turning points, the decision points that lead people down those very different paths? What if there's a formula that, once you learned it, you could alter the future path of your life? It could radically transform your success. Would you want to know that formula? Well, I've got it. I'm Michael Maloney, and since 1975, I've been teaching that formula. It's now called the Maloney Method. I've trained thousands of teachers and therapists to salvage students at risk of school failure. And in that time, my students have taught more than 100,000 students to read, write, spell, and do math. In fact, that's why I was chosen as Canada's National Literacy Educator way back in 2001. As a much older person now, I wonder how the Maloney Method would have helped my brother become all that he could be. 2 important things to remember. First, I didn't do this by myself. I had 3 amazing mentors, each of whom contributed a system, as demonstrated by the learning of my students and my clients. Second, that National Educator Award is a few years old now, and the number of salvaged students is way bigger. That story I was telling you about is very personal. The difference between my brother and me came down to education and training. Of course, times have changed. Success isn't about working for the same company for 25 years or working your way up the ladder. For many of us, success looks like becoming literate and getting admitted to the college program you want. So for many of my students, becoming literate had life-altering effects that completely changed the paths of their lives. I can't help but think of Sylvia. She had left high school without graduating. She'd worked in many low-paying jobs, and she was being held back from opportunities because of her lack of education, despite her obvious talents. I trained and hired her as a tutor. Soon she went back to school and earned her secondary school diploma. She went on to college and got not 1, but 2 diplomas. I involved her in a local literacy project run by my Rotary Club and the local YMCA. I took her to national and international Rotary conferences as my assistant. 3 years later, she left my company to take a position teaching courses at our local community college, all because she appreciated and understood our method and the difference it could bring to others. Would Sylvia have been able to teach at a community college without these skills as a tutor? I doubt it. I can tell you that Maloney Method students have made crazy, amazing transformation in their lives. I often wonder where they might be if they hadn't made that fateful decision to step into that bigger vision for themselves. A vision of bigger skills, a bigger lifestyle, a bigger impact. So that's the big question this video is all about. A bigger vision for yourself. Are you ready to dramatically grow your skills and change the lives of more people more quickly? Are you ready to learn new methods that will help your clients and students become incredibly more successful? If you operate a clinic, a learning center, or a tutoring company, you could reconfigure your lifestyle. You could reconfigure your income. You could have an even bigger impact. We have a lot of ground to cover in this video, so let's get rolling. I've already thrown big numbers at you, but certainly I didn't start that way. It was December 1978. I had recently lost my job as a behavioral psychologist in the schools of Belleville, Ontario, Canada. I also had just been denied a green card for a job I had accepted as a school principal in Portland, Maine. I had returned to Canada after selling my home and my sailboat just 1 month earlier. I had also just started a new relationship, a new partner, her 4-year-old son and 2-year-old daughter, her collie, her cat, and a significant mortgage. I had nothing going for me except desperation and this deep desire to change my circumstances and to support my newly acquired family. Back then, I had one of those key turning points in my life. I started my first tutoring business in January 1979. Since I had no sales and marketing experience, I was on my own. I had one second-story room in a struggling downtown mall, one blackboard, a desk, a couple of tables and chairs, and a few students. I gradually found a way to sell my services in a way that didn't feel slimy, a way that felt authentic and honest. I provided a money-back guarantee for learning and showed clients how to track progress. Now, don't get me wrong, nothing happens for me overnight. It took me a long time to work it out, and I didn't know that I was inventing something that would change how we teach students. I believed that many students were not getting the help they needed, and I did want to change that. The reality was I also needed the change so that I could support my family. So that was the start of the Maloney Method. The challenge for me was to succeed as a private, for-profit business in a market where schools gave away services for free, even though these services rarely worked. The results clearly showed that not much happened in special education for most children at risk, except that they got a year older and further behind. 85% of these kids showed no gain year after year. Also, there had been little change in 40 years. That seemed so wrong to me. Students needed a better solution. The Maloney Method had consistently succeeded in many schools and many students in need of help in the Hastings County, Belleville area. But now it is time to take it to the next level. I am now ready to teach the Maloney Method system to you. Every successful student and every successful teacher starts with a dream and a plan. When my clients, my students, and I could see the changes that happened so quickly, my life changed in an instant. I knew that if my method worked for one student, I could use it over and over again, and I could teach it to others. Since you are watching this video, I know that you have a dream to take more control over your teaching, to make a greater impact on your clients and students. Okay, let's get to the good stuff here. I want to start with a couple things that might be on your mind. There are two big elephants in the room. First, I'm talking about your current skills and your previous training. I recently gave a keynote address at a conference for teachers and therapists in Columbus, Ohio. I asked the 200 people to raise their hand if they were satisfied with the professional training that allowed them to teach. One hand went up. I know that my teacher training was incredibly shoddy. My training to become a principal was even worse. I gained no applicable skills or strategies from either. Almost everyone in the profession feels that way, apparently with one exception. In other words, if you haven't yet become a completely skillful teacher, or you wish you had a bigger skill repertoire, welcome to the club. Learning is a lifelong journey. The reality is that no matter what career you're in, you always need to focus on building your skills. If you haven't started yet, you need to get started. Learning the methods that comprise the Maloney Method system is how you get that start. You can speed up learning with better teaching. If you are a new teacher, therapist, BCBA, or RTA, just starting from scratch, then the Maloney Method is your ticket. You can start with nothing more than you have now. You can also earn 12 CEUs from the University of West Florida. I've seen the empirical data on this method over and over. My charts from thousands of students consistently show an average of 2 years of academic gain for each year of instruction. About the other elephant in the room, are you willing to learn new ways? Ultimately, if you're going to have real control over your student or your client's learning and get the results you want, you may have to change what you are currently doing and adopt new alternatives. That is not easy, but it is worth the pain to change and get the results. The Maloney Method consists of 6 different methods, taken from the research literature and built into a single, easy-to-use system. There is a system to display exactly what will be taught, in what order, and to what level of competence, a roadmap for success. Secondly, there is a system of specific, clearly measurable objectives to show you exactly what to do and how to do it. Thirdly, there's a system for getting your students in their seats and under your instructional control. Then there is a system for measuring daily progress in a minute or less. There is also an error correction system to help your students practice efficiently. And finally, there's a system for independent practice so that your students become fluent in highly specific skills. Each of the components of the system have been used in many schools, learning centers, and clinics in Canada, the United States, Hong Kong, the United Arab Emirates, and other parts of the world. The system has been used to assist children on the ASD spectrum, foster children, illiterate adults, children diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, learning disabilities, and a host of other conditions. It has carried a money-back guarantee ever since we opened our first learning center in 1979. Would such a system make a difference for your students? Think about your potential impact on a student's life. Think about a parent coming to you and saying, "Thank you. My son is now reading fluently." Can you picture that in your mind? Can you see yourself getting that result? Can you feel what that would be like? So here's the thing. When you've put in the work and hit your goal, you will feel excited. You'll jump to the ceiling. You never forget your first success. But then, something you didn't expect happens. The ripple effect. Because all of a sudden, all of these extra benefits start coming into your life. You notice other people start treating you differently because you are getting results. They're treating you with a new respect. You have become special. People are treating you like an authority, like an expert, yes, even like a guru. People are asking you for your time, your opinion. They want to join your team. They want to know what you know and how you did it. That's the bounce back effect, and I'm sure you can understand it. Your new skills just gave you a leadership position in your setting. That positioning usually takes people years or even decades to achieve, and that's what the Maloney Method provides. It's worked all over the world, from Asia to Africa, Europe, North America, Australia, and the UK. In fact, even in its pilot launch, we offered a limited enrollment in Maloney Method with the University of West Florida. We had people join us from 4 different countries. So you may be wondering, how does this work? How do you get the Maloney Method to work for you? So here's the deal. Before I tell you more about the Maloney Method, I have to tell you that this course is going to be interactive. And since it's an online coaching program, registration is only going to be open for a short period of time. Then we will close down registration and we'll get the class started. In fact, since this is our first official launch after our successful pilot project, we have no idea how quickly our limited registration will fill up. I suspect that the 12 CEUs provided by the University of West Florida will speed up the process. First off, you get the 6 modules of the Maloney Method. It's all hosted online, so you can access it from anywhere in the world. I've broken up this training into individual training modules. It's set up so that we can go through a module every other week. However, if you get into scheduling issues, or if you fall behind, you can always work at your own pace and catch up later. When the program is over, you will still have access to the materials, so you will be able to go back through the courses at your own leisure. To give you a more concrete idea, here is a free bonus. It is free testing, free training, and 10 free lessons to teach a child or an adult beginning reading. It's yours for free. It is typical of how the Maloney Method system is designed. Just click the link and start learning. I will stay in touch with you so that you know when registration is about to close. Till then, learn to become a more skilled reading instructor. A final thought. You probably have a student like my brother. Smart, but never taught. Using the Maloney Method, you could be the difference in that person's life.